We are moving towards a technological era where everything is dependent on technology.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Sudesh Reddy. I'm the communications specialist at UNICEF South Africa, the United Nations Children's Fund, based in Pretoria. We're one of the key partners on this initiative today, the Bridge program with BMW, the BMW Group, with the Department of Basic Education, who are here as well, and with many of you in this audience. Thank you for joining us. On the 1st of August, yes, it's Women's Month in South Africa. It's hard to believe this much of the year has gone by already. And we're really excited to be with the Mail and Guardian here in Johannesburg for this critical thinking forum. And that's really what it is. It's an opportunity to think critically, to introspect, to share best practice, to look at lessons learned, to dialogue with one another, debate if we need to, and learn about the power of STEM education, which you're going to hear a lot about later. So I'm going to leave that to the experts in the room to talk about. Just a few housekeeping rules. If I can ask that cell phones be placed on silent. There will be, the bathrooms are just out of this door when you go out of here to the left, and left again for the ladies, and straight on for the gents' bathroom, which is by the registration desk, and we hope everybody has registered. The Wi-Fi is fairly easy here. It's just Radisson Guest, and you accept the terms and conditions. There's no password, so that works smoothly as well. Following the end of the session, and we envisage ending by 12 noon, so it's an hour and a half, we will go upstairs to the 13th floor for lunch. So please don't rush off, and use this as an opportunity to meet and to connect with those you know and those you don't know. So without further ado, I'm going to call on the UNICEF South Africa Deputy Representative, Mr. Irfan Akhtar, to give a short welcome address, and thereafter we'll get a message from BMW with a short video in between. Irfan.
Thank you, Sudesh. And good morning to all. I think my job is very easy to welcome you all, because we have eminent speakers and volunteers and experts with us today to share ideas, to reflect. So just to start with Mr. Selike Tebane, Chief Director of MST and Curriculum Enhancement, DBE. Mr. Mabasa Kepe, Government and External Affairs Manager from BMW Group. Mr. Beho Ramagoshi, Head of CSR, BMW Group, and anchor of this partnership, CEO and team of Mail and Guardian Group. And thank you for hosting us today. Representatives from the private sectors. I know there are many private sectors and stakeholders present here. Partners from the government departments, media, civil society organizations, and youth groups. Greetings from UNICEF and best wishes as we commence, and Sudesh mentioned that this is a month of Women's Month in South Africa. It is a great pleasure to be here today to join the Critical Thinking Forum, which is focusing on science, technology, education, and mathematics in education. In short, it's STEM. But at outset, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you, and thank you for attending this important event to reflect on the importance of STEM within the education sector. As you know, education is important for everybody's life, and STEM becomes prominent in education. Let me also express our gratitude to Mail and Guardian for hosting us today. And really would like to thank Mail and Guardian for joining this important cause, which is a critical thinking forum for STEM. Dear valued partners, colleagues, and stakeholders, STEM has become an important agenda globally to fulfill the requirement of 21st century skills. We are living in a 21st century skills, which is very dynamic, fast changing, and it requires a different set of skills to be fit for purpose in current context. Also, because the modern job market is shifting towards a greater demand for workers with STEM skills and education. In the past, we had a different need for different skills, different kind of expertise. But now the requirement is different. and role of STEM is very important. And I think our panel members will be going into details and will be doing a deep dive to share how it is important to have a STEM in education sector and beyond the education sector. The current situation in education requires holistic and multiple approaches to improve the relevant skills and opportunities for young people as they transition from learning to earning. Education will not have a value unless it's leading towards earning, employability, and improve the quality of life. If you see in many countries, many places, there is a high dropout, and there are many children and young people out of school. And if you do the bottleneck analysis, causality analysis, many times they don't find value of education linking to employability and earning. So education must focus, transitioning from learning to earning, and that should be also part of the STEM and skill development we're talking about. This requires a strong public and private partnership to address the barriers to quality and inclusive STEM education and make collective effort to leave no child behind, to fulfill the SDG commitment. We are living in a SDG era where the tagline is no one left behind. If no one is left behind, we must ensure that they have access to quality education, they have access to skills development, to be relevant, to be fit for purpose in the family, in the society, and in individual life. Globally, the public and private partnership continues to be important role to extend and expand access to primary and secondary education, because private sector is an integral part of society. And when we bring public-private partnership, it becomes much more stronger, and it becomes a stronger bridge to fulfill the needs of the young people and the society. And our partnership between BMW and UNICEF is called a bridge, which is built upon strong pillars of commitment, working together, share vision, but also discharging the social responsibilities. So I would like to really appreciate and thank BMW Group for having a strong partnership with UNICEF on a STEM and a skill development. Let's give them a round of applause to BMW Group. And this is the reason we have a strong partnership with BMW and other stakeholders. When I talk about BMW UNICEF, it does not mean that this partnership is between two only. To make a bridge, we need several kind of materials, ingredients. So when we are talking about bridge, educating young people for tomorrow, which we need to act upon today, requires everybody and holistic participation. Together with BMW Group, UNICEF has convened this Male and Guardian Critical Thinking Forum to discuss how the public and private sector can help to overcome barriers to quality and inclusive STEM education. There are so many barriers, and some of the barriers can be removed very easily. Some of the barriers require some strategic thinking, critical thinking, and I think we'll be discussing during the panel discussions to identify those barriers so that we can act upon to remove, to minimize those barriers, to create a better environment for young population. This partnership also contributes to UNICEF global target. UNICEF is a global organization, and we have a global target to ensure that every child has access to education, to skill development. And we have a target of reaching 10 million children and young people each year through education and different kind of learning opportunities, which is very much aligned with the BMW Group's long-term intention to provide STEM education and skill development for young people, including in South Africa. And we appreciate this partnership. This partnership really came at an opportune time as the Department of Basic Education has been piloting a robotic and a coding curriculum, which has just obtained approval from UMalusi. I think this is a Council for Quality and for the Education Training. And this has been approved officially. So this is a good timing to discuss about STEM, talking about coding and roboting. So this is very much into the DB framework. The gathering this morning is very timely also, as we reflect on the progress and plans to support this initiative by the government. As you know that DB is at the forefront to bring technology in education, to bring STEM in education. So our discussions, reflections, and partnership with the private sector, the stakeholders will fit into overall plan and studies of DB. And a while ago, I was discussing that DB is in a process to do consultation in several provinces and finalize the strategic plan for education. So the reflections, the discussions, and outcomes from a panel discussion will also feed into shape the education sector plan in South Africa. I'm very confident that this forum will provide an opportunity to share different interventions, lessons learned, and success stories on how to support government to move forward on this critical issue. So not only panel members, but those who are present in this meeting room, but also I see a large number of colleagues are connected virtually. Your reflections, your participation, your contribution will also help. So it's not only the panel members, but all who are here and virtually will contribute to this discussion to shape our agenda. On behalf of UNICEF, I thank you for your commitment and participation and look forward to an informative, enlightening, and productive morning. With this, I would like to wish you a good luck and thank you so much. Sudesh, over to you.
Thank you, Irfan. And thank you for also acknowledging the audience joining us online. Yes, this session is being streamed, so we have an online audience as well. I was also asked by Busi from the Mail and Guardian, for those on social media, the handle is Bridge, as it is there, and hashtag MG Critical Thinking Forum. So that's the social media handles. And we hope to get a lot of engagement there as well. So one of the engagements we've worked with BMW and UNICEF has worked with BMW on is visually depicting the impact of this program. What is it? You know, it's an acronym, it's a term, it's a word, but what is the Bridge program? Who is it reaching, and can we see its impact? So to give a short overview, we've got a 3-minute video that we will screen now that tells you about the partnership.
We are moving towards a technological era where everything is dependent on technology, on AI. We're moving towards robots and things like that. I mean, in the future, some factory jobs and cashier jobs and those things might become obsolete.
The UNICEF Coding and Robotics Pilot Program is a 12-month program that was designed to support the Department of Basic Education in its efforts to implement a new subject called coding and robotics.
We currently have teaching experience, but not experience in teaching the coding. And we need to train these kids to at least open their field to more technological careers that they may follow. The gap is definitely big, and it's going to get bigger.
When they trained us, a lot of us knew absolutely nothing. And you can see over these 2 days, we took part in a mini competition. The robots ended up driving. We could lift blocks up. We could follow certain lines. So it was a massive amount of fun. And we learned a lot in the process. That was the main thing.
We need to prepare young people for this future by ensuring that they have the relevant skills and the relevant access to resources to be highly skilled and functional in this new economy.
The thing I love about robotics is the innovation, the teamwork, obviously. We come together and we solve problems. And as we grow up, we further our study. We leave the school and the club, so then we can become like future leaders, future innovators.
Robotics at school have a big impact on me. I have a lot of fun, made a lot of new friends. I went to competitions.
This is fun. I like the challenge and like being with my friends and like working as a team. If we expose more of robotics to the rest of major plane, I feel like people will be able to finish tasks and like fix problems quicker.
I think just seeing the enjoyment of the kids, that they are able to do something and going back to their parents, you know what, we did this today and I'm able to show you how to do this. Dreams can only happen if you make it happen. And we sort of allow the platform for that to actually happen.
Educating
Young people.
For tomorrow.
Today.
So that gives you a sense of some of the workshops that were held, this particular one in Cape Town, as part of the Bridge Initiative. And you can see, you hear the voices of young people themselves who are directly benefiting. We've got about 3 or 4 videos that have been produced. We won't be showing all today. We'll just show one more at the end. And they're available on the UNICEF South Africa YouTube channel. So please do watch them. And thank you for all those who made it possible. And particularly thank you to BMW, who have really driven a lot of this process, no pun intended. I'd like to now invite Ms. Tebogo Ramakgoshi, the head of corporate social responsibility at the BMW Group, South Africa, to say a few words. Tebogo joined BMW in 2017, and as I said, is the head of corporate social responsibility for the group, where she ensures the group's responsibility towards good corporate citizenship through the development and execution of the company's sustainable CSR strategy. Tebogo, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Sudesh, Ifran, and the UNICEF colleagues. Thank you, Mail and Guardian, for hosting us as we all commit to deeper understanding, effective problem solving, community building, and particularly through diverse experiences and opinions today. On behalf of BMW Group South Africa, I am honored to be here at the Critical Thinking Forum under the theme, Educating Young People for Tomorrow today. I stand here today not only to speak on transformative youth development partnership between us and UNICEF, but to reiterate the importance of educating our youth. And as we all stand on the cusp of progress, it is essential to recognize that investing in education leads to empowerment beyond the classroom. It nurtures curious minds, fosters critical thinking, and sparks fires of possibility, as shown in the video just now. In South Africa, this is a critical topic. Like many countries, we are faced with the challenge of providing meaningful employment opportunities for young people in our country. As of the first quarter of this year, the youth unemployment rate of 45.5% was noted. With this statistics, you can imagine the cause for concern. It is heartening, though, to see that there are concerted efforts to address the challenges that our people are facing. Efforts made by an organization like UNICEF, which is committed to quality learning for children. Our commitment over the past 50 years has been around sustainable education and community upliftment in the country. As an automotive country, we are working towards enhancing STEM, education, and the workforce. In a country with a growing youth population, automation, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things driving the fourth industrial revolution, developing a robust STEM human capital and curriculum within education leads to high economic growth and fast tracks Africa's potential as a global leader. We also recognize that participation in STEM fields remain low, especially among women. On this note, the awareness of STEM career opportunities needs to be improved. Together with UNICEF, we want to reduce the growing inequality in education and to look to inspire young minds, showing them how exciting the path of STEM can be. Last year, on World Children's Day, the BMW Group and UNICEF announced this long-term partnership. Our collaboration is named Bridge, educating young people for tomorrow, today, as per today's forum's theme. This partnership aims to create learning and education within STEM, redefining the landscape of education and skill building for the youth. In addition to providing financial support, BMW Group contributes its expertise and global network to promote projects that make learning content and suitable learning environments available today. Our support in the program ranges from providing laboratory equipment to developing customized training for the teachers, as well as mentorships to job shadowing. By acquiring the skills and capabilities at an earlier stage, young people globally can bridge the gap between school and work and navigate the professional world while molding its development. Lethabong Maths and Science ICT School of Specialization in Soshanguve, very dear to myself, the BMW Group, is a beneficiary of the pilot phase of this collaboration. To follow will be Soshanguve Automotive School of Specialization and another 4 within the country this year. Since the inception of Bridge in Q4 last year, 570 educators from 6 provinces have been trained in coding and robotics. 90 subject specialists from all provinces have been trained as well to support these educators at school level. An impressive 100 schools in this short period of time, with over 36,000 learners, have benefited from this training. By the end of this year, the target is 50,000 learners. A total of 5 coding and robotic hubs will be established this year. To date, thus far, only Lethabong has been the pilot, and the 4 will receive later on in the year. After its start here in South Africa, this partnership extends to Brazil, India, Mexico, and Thailand in our global sites for BMW Group. With this collaboration, education transcends borders and cultures. It is a passport to a world of knowledge and opportunity. The BMW Group is also supporting UNICEF's global goal to reach more than 10 million children and younger people through education yearly. As a higher level of education and a wider portfolio of skills also contribute to a stabilized global economy. In conclusion, STEM is a turbocharger of global economic strength. Alongside UNICEF, we are revving up our engines in education around the STEM field. Together, we are committed to building a better future for our children, communities, and the country at large, ensuring that all are healthy, educated, and cared for. We will continue to work and innovate. At BMW Group South Africa, we build more than just cars. A big thank you to UNICEF for nurturing this shared commitment. Thank you to the Mail and Guardian for this very critical platform. To the private sector, let us embrace purpose through responsibility. This is the very fabric of our interconnected world, so that no one is left behind. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Boho, and for hearing about these exciting expansion plans. That's something to look out for. So thank you for sharing those insights and for partnering with UNICEF on this. So the crux of today is critical thinking. And to stimulate that critical thinking, we have an illustrious panel of people that are in the know on this. And I'm going to introduce the panel members. And as I introduce them, I'm going to ask each panel member, please come up and take a seat here, wherever they're comfortable. And then I'm going to invite my colleague Mandisa, who will moderate. So the first panelist is from the Department of Basic Education, Mr. Seliki Tlhabane. Mr. Tlhabane is the Chief Director responsible for Maths, Science and Technology at the department, as well as Information and Communication Technology. He's also served as CEO of ProTech, an NGO focused on science, technology, engineering, and maths programs, and as the head of Sangari, which develops and distributes science and e-learning equipment. So we have somebody here with direct experience on this issue and in terms of curriculum and framing and education. So if I can ask you to please come to the podium, to the panel. Thank you. Our second panelist is from the BMW Group, and that is Mr. Mbasa Kepe, the Head of Government and External Affairs at BMW Group South Africa. Mr. Kepe brings a wealth of knowledge and experience in the automotive sector and has also served on other industry bodies such as NAMSA, as well as transformation and government committees. His career spans over 25 years in the automotive industry, having worked in various fields in that sector. Mr. Kepe, if I can ask you to please join us in the front as well. And our last panelist is from UNICEF. It's my colleague, Hana Yoshimoto. Ms. Yoshimoto is the Chief of Education at UNICEF South Africa, overseeing programs related to early childhood development, quality enhancement, and youth skills development. She also provides technical assistance to government, and is a has worked at UNESCO Regional Bureau for Education in the Arab states. She was previously Chief of Education at UNICEF Egypt, and Hannah has worked also at Goldman Sachs. So if I can ask Hannah to please come to the front. And moderating this session, and there will be time for Q&A and discussion, and we urge you all to participate, including our online audience, is my colleague, Mandisa Matobela, Partnerships Manager at UNICEF South Africa, who has been integrally involved in partnering the ties on this program. So I'm going to ask Mandisa to lead us into discussion. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sudesh, for your glowing introductions of our panel. I assure you it was all true, but you can verify this by testing out your own tech know-how, by finding our panel on LinkedIn and following them there for more about what will happen in this conversation and also the work that they are currently doing. I have said to them that for the sake of brevity and also to give you an opportunity to ask questions at the end, we're not going to follow the traditional approach where we ask everyone to give us a round of remarks to begin with. We're going to simply go straight into our discussion, and then we will have an opportunity to take questions from the floor. So please do note down your questions as we're going, and we will have an opportunity to ensure that we hear from you later on in the conversation. There will be roving mics that'll be moving through the room. So please ensure that you raise your hand at the right time, and hopefully you will be among those that were able to select to participate in the conversation. With that said, I am going to ask Mr. Tlhabane to kick us off with the very first question, and we're going to be as generous as possible because we know that you take a lot of flack in the public domain as the Department of Basic Education. And so essentially what we would like to hear about is the work around the implementation of the new coding and robotics curriculum, what the department has done in terms of developing that curriculum, and what the significance of that curriculum is for today's learner.
Thank you very much, Mandisa, and good morning to my fellow panelists and to the House. Mandisa, let me take this opportunity to thank UNICEF for the partnership that we have, a long-term partnership, their keen interest in education and the support they provide. And let me also thank the BMW Group, who has been the partner to the Department of Basic Education over the years. It's not only around the recent developments that Deborah listed in her remark. They've been there for many years, and they would like to acknowledge that and acknowledge Mail and Guardian as well, who's a critical partner. Mandisa, from time immemorial, societies, nations, families, industry have always grappled with answering the question of what type of skills do the young people need for them to function effectively in society. It is not only starting now, from the time when children were taught how to plow the land, this question had always been there, and it has always been answered. And as soon as you answer it and you agree on the type of skills that children need, the world changes, and a new set of skills are then required. So it is something that the conversation that we are having here has been happening over the years throughout human race, and it will continue to happen in the next 20, 50 years. And perhaps the rate at which the conversation has to be held may be much quicker than it happened in the past, because technology is driving this conversation at a very rapid pace. It then becomes the responsibility of governments through their education systems to follow these conversations and to ensure that they take up their responsibility of preparing young people for this changing world, to ensure that they will be able to function effectively in society. The introduction of the coding and the robotics curriculum was a response to this question of saying, in the fourth industrial revolution, others they're arguing that we are already in the fifth industrial revolution. What type of skills will children need for them to function effectively in society and make them and deal with the whole issue of employability? And employability means finding jobs where they will be able to participate in the economy, either as employees or themselves being self-employed. So it is a responsibility of the Department of Basic Education here in South Africa to follow these demands from the world of work and ensure that we equip the learners with the required skills and competencies. Otherwise, we run the risk of having a mismatch between what we produce and what industry needs, leading into unemployment and wasted investment in developments which leads children into a dead end. So the coding and the robotics curriculum that we recently developed was responding to the need for us to equip learners with the digital skills that Deborah mentioned in her remarks when she spoke about the rapid rate at which automation is happening. And we understand that this automation and robots will take up some of the routine functions. They are not there to replace human beings, because human beings are the ones who build these robots. So there is no risk in the robots becoming superior to human beings, because human beings are creating them. The created cannot be superior to the creator. It will never happen. So, but we need children who will be able to design these robots and the applications that are on the back end that must drive these robots. We need children who will be able to service these robots in the simple form or in very complex forms. So coding and robotics, as a result, then equip learners with this type of skills, as well as the soft skills that include, which is a theme of this seminar, the critical thinking skills, problem solving skills, design thinking skills, computational thinking skills, and other soft skills like creativity, teamwork, collaboration, because all these skills are needed. And the curriculum has been developed in such a way that it's going to equip the learners with these skills. And we are hopeful that this is what industry needs, like BMW and all other employers who are looking for students who will come out of the schooling system with skills that are going to make them relevant into the job market. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Thamani, for that. I hear you saying that the intention of the department has always been to build a responsive curriculum, responsive to the needs of whichever industrial revolution we may be in, be it the fourth or the fifth, or potentially even the sixth, coming very quickly around the corner. Mbasa, should we do a poll in the room of how many BMW drivers we have? Should we? You don't have to raise your hand, but if you are keen on chatting to us about getting closer to the colleagues to get some advisory about your vehicle, I'm sure that they can make a plan after this. One of the things that I'm keen to know is when you hear what the department is doing and you hear the needs that they are catering for, and the way in which they're making the curriculum more responsive in this fashion to the fourth and fifth and potentially sixth industrial revolution. What is it that drives your organization to commit to being a partner along this journey? And what is the value that you see of making this investment into the workforce of the future?
Thanks, Mandy, so very much for that. I mean, we are greatly encouraged by the sentiments from the Department of Education. As you know, there are a lot of changes currently. I mean, if we take the automotive sector is going through a major transition at the moment, from your petrol or diesel engines to electric vehicles. And that transition, requires skills, a lot of advanced skills, and we need to be able to have an environment as a private sector that enables our children to be able to acquire those skills. I mean, other markets like China and Europe, are running ahead, in terms of developing these skills for their own populations, And in South Africa, we're doing a catch-up, We need to get to a stage where we've got an environment that enables that kind of catch-up, and I'm happy to hear that the department, is supportive of that kind of initiatives, Secondly, what I wanted to say that, I mean, this collaboration, is aligned to our corporate citizenship, I mean, we've always focused on education, as my colleague said, and we believe that education is an enabler, and so BMW tends to invest on this long-term progress, that we think that will have an impact, So we've been in this space for a long time, and we intend to do so going forward, as Tebogo has indicated. We intend to roll these kind of programs in other markets, And thirdly, I mean, I think one of the biggest things that's in the world at the moment, especially in the developing world, is that the rate of unemployment is very high, especially here in South Africa. If you take South Africa and put it against other developing nations in terms of unemployment and inequality, we are an outlier, So I think we need to do something about it, and this is our effort as a company to try and contribute towards that effort to make sure that our young people are employable, and we leverage the demographic dividend that we have here in South Africa and the rest of Africa. So for me, those are the key things I could mention at the moment that drive BMW to participate in this collaborative effort.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mbasa. The reference to the demographic dividend is interesting because while we have a lot of young people, unfortunately, not many or not as many of our young people as we would like are economically included or participating effectively in the economy. And so we have Hannah sitting strategically between the public and private sector as the broker, so to speak, and the go-between. And so, Hannah, we're keen to find out whether the efforts that are being made towards system strengthening, particularly in this particular area, are starting to yield results, but particularly for the most vulnerable in our society and those who are at the periphery of being included into economic participation from the point of view of being able to participate in STEM careers and future.
Thank you so much, Mandisa. Really building on what Mr. Tabane and Mr. Mbasa has mentioned, I think in a country context where there's such a high unemployment rate for youth, this indication that, I mean, by now we all heard or have read about the AI-powered bots coming for millions of jobs out there. Our country really is at stake. The good thing is that right now, some people talk about tech and advancement as a threat for people in a vulnerable situation, widening the digital gap. But the good thing is that the tech and advancement can be used to impact the lives of vulnerable people. And there are a lot of examples. There's devices where you can connect schools. There are devices to help those with disabilities. We, from UNICEF side, we've been working with vulnerable young girls from poor rural areas. We've been training them on drone technology. Every year so far, we generate 15, 16 drone pilots. Back home for these girls, their brothers, their male colleagues all laughed at them saying, oh, there won't be any opportunity. Here they are, they're licensed drone pilots. So if you see drones flying over a piece of land, doing security patrol, looking out for smugglers stealing the electric wires, it could be girls from poor rural areas. There are opportunities that can be created by using STEM, and that's why this investment toward STEM is so crucial for the future of young people in South Africa.
While we're making all of these investments into STEM and being told that the robots are our friends, how many of you use some kind of AI support? This is a real poll. This is not like the BMW. Okay, that's about, would you say about 50%? How many of you are reluctant to use AI tools for help to do regular chores? Okay. How many of you are on the fence? Okay, so we have a lot more adopters than we do those who are on the fence and those who are perhaps a little bit more on the outskirts of making the decision yet. My question then becomes, Hannah, how much of this can we effectively continue to outsource, you know, before the robots become closer to us than actual people, and what's the importance of the inclusion of soft skills into this integration? How do we ensure that we remain active and able to engage with one another before choosing to opt to ask Siri or ask ChatGPT about your relationship issues or about what the answer is to a particular math problem that you might be working on, or to help you edit an email that you're working on? What's the right balance of that, and how do we ensure that we don't go too far to one side?
Yes, so it's really a good question, Mandisa. And as Mr. Tabane mentioned about the soft skills, I mean, you can use the word soft skills or transferable skills, 21st century skills. The words are actually interchangeable at this point. But when you think about STEM education, you really cannot separate these transferable skills and the hard skills. A lot of partners we see, including from public and private and development partners like us, talk about digital skills training. That's all great. It's digital skills and the hard skills. And hard skills are actually easier to measure. It's the transferable skills that are actually critical for the labor market. If we read any reports coming out from the industries, they all talk about soft skills. And that really is what pushes young people to be able to overcome their life challenges and also respond to the labor market. And so what we need is let's get the foundation right. And the good thing is that last year, the DBE actually developed the National Core Competency Framework. This is really crucial and really a great step forward, because when you talk about transferable skills, the definition is different. If you ask your neighbor sitting next to you, what is creativity? What is cooperation? The definition is all different. So as a nation, you need a common definition and understanding of how those different soft skills are intertwined to really build the capacity of young people. So this national framework was adopted and approved by the Council of Ministers. So congratulations to the DBE. Now DBE is in this process of how to embed and adjust the curriculum, the teacher training, the assessment system, the teaching learning materials and digital skills programs without putting too much pressure on the teachers and the learners and the parents' communities. You can tell that it's not an easy task, but this movement is happening, and I really hope that these would be measured adequately, hopefully with the support of the tech. And I think this is, as Mr. Tabane said, a lot of the things are done. For example, you know, learning math or science in a classroom, in a group, that already, it's a science topic, but you're also cultivating the teamwork or collaboration. At this point, it is happening, but it depends on the teacher, meaning that it's not done systematically. And this is what the DBE is trying to do, to have a system approach. And of course, the impact will come in the next decade. But once this system approach is done, hopefully in the future, there's a bulk of young people who would be able to really respond to the needs of the labor market.
I caught, oh, sorry, go ahead, come in, Ambassador, please.
No, I wanted to say, I mean, if I were to go back to school, you know.
I have a time machine.
If I were to go back to school, you know, I would do more soft skills than I had done, you know. I mean, I've been in the private sector for almost 25 years now. Yes, we need technical skills. You know, I studied engineering. We need the skills to enable us in that space. But you quickly realize that you need to be able to interact, communicate, put your message across in a manner that will be receptive by the audience, you know. And I mean, it's one of the areas where I will also put some form of emphasis, you know, in addition to the STEM education, you know, because ultimately you're going to end up in a work situation. You're going to have to learn to navigate the space, you know. And for me, that is also critical, and I agree completely with you.
It's wonderful to hear that coming from an engineer. And I think it speaks to the balance that's required, but also in the line of work that you do. I think we're constantly encouraging people to move into STEM. I like hearing that some STEM people are also thinking about moving into government affairs and external affairs. So it's good for us to constantly keep that balance.
Yes.
With that said, it sounds like the role of the teacher is becoming more and more critical in terms of bringing all of these skills, whether transferable or STEM or digital, into the classroom. And knowing what we know about the condition in our classrooms, how many learners there are, and also the fact that a significant part of the teacher population is going to be exiting the system on account of retirement in the next couple of years. What are some of the things, Mr. Tabane, that you and the colleagues in the DBE are doing to support educators, to upskill educators, to be able to be at the forefront of delivering the new curriculum, but also being able to impart the transferable skills to the learners as well?
Yeah, thank you once more, Mandisa. We hold the position that says the teacher is at the center of curriculum delivery, and that their capacity or their ability to perform their jobs is very critical. We the state of readiness of the department to introduce any subject rests on about 5 pillars. I'm going to mention some of them. One of them is the availability of the curriculum itself. What needs to be taught, because the curriculum defines what needs to be taught. It documents that. The second thing that must be in place is the availability of the teacher to deliver the curriculum. And not just the teacher, but a competent teacher to be able to deliver this curriculum that we want them to deliver. The third pillar is the availability of the teaching and learning resources that both the teacher and the learners must be able to utilize to access the curriculum and to deliver it successfully. The fourth pillar is what you call the school readiness, and the school readiness involves a number of things, including where a subject requires specialized rooms, that such rooms are available or such resources are available. You and I, you are an engineer, and I suspect that you might have become an engineer coming out of the school that did not even have a science lab. Correct. But you had a teacher who taught science in such a way that he was some kind of a magician who painted a picture in your mind of these two chemicals mixing and producing something else, sometimes even the solution changing color or the smell coming out, and you could visualize this, though these things were not there.
You were imagining the Bunsen burner.
You imagining the Bunsen burners and all that. So it goes to the role of the teacher. Who could do these things? And it then touches on the environment within which our teachers work, because South Africa is a vastly divided country where out of that beautiful video, I really loved it. I would have loved to see students from Quintal 1 schools in that video, because it looked like it was just showing from affluent township schools or urban schools. But our delivery of this curriculum and the teachers that must deliver it would come from even deep rural areas, because our plan is to ensure that children learn coding and robotics right from Komo in a deep rural area or in Lisikisiki, that they will not be left out of this. But you need teachers for you to be able to do that. And technology, even when it gets into our classrooms, it will only come as a resource. The teacher is the one who will manage and decide what is that, what type of resources they need to use to be able to deliver a section of the curriculum. Technology must make the work of teachers easy. It will have to take some of the routine functions away so that teachers can focus on the development of the child. So we have spent some time during the time when we developed the curriculum to now, when we are about to implement it next year at scale, preparing teachers. And we have done this through partnerships. Universities have come on board. They've trained teachers. Our teacher unions have also come on board. We worked with them. They've trained over 30,000 teachers. In the clip that you just saw there, BMW, UNICEF have trained teachers as well, and it was demonstrated there. You could hear teachers commenting on the level of preparation, saying, we knew nothing when this thing came. Today, this thing has been made so easy, and we are confident to get into our classes to deliver on this curriculum. And lastly, and just following up on the comments made by my colleagues of saying, the soft skills are even much more important than the hard skills that you are talking about. You'd remember that in response to this, the Department of Basic Education introduced a new subject called life skills. It was a deliberate effort on the part of the department that we cannot just have children who are good at maths or who know history or who know geography, but are lacking in life skills. It was for that reason that that subject was introduced. So it doesn't matter which subject you are doing, whether STEM or social sciences, or every child in the system must be equipped with life skills, which are the skills that my colleagues are saying. We must not forget this, because you can have people who are highly qualified but are lacking in these soft skills, the social skills that will make them appreciate nature, that will make them appreciate other human beings, that would not assist them to be complete human beings.
But this is hard work, Mr. Tlhabane. It's not easy. Just in your 5 pillars alone, I mean, making sure that the curriculum is available, delivering that curriculum, making sure that the actual equipment is available for learners to learn in real time without having to imagine beakers and sulfur changing color there in their imagination, and also to ensure that you then have this resource availability and that there's security to protect the equipment in the schools, and making sure that we have all of this readiness in place. People tend to be a little bit overwhelmed by the extent of the work and just the scale of the investment that must be made. Mbasa, for you and the team at BMW, what is it that, having seen and understood what needs to be done, what is it that I guess encouraged your organization to continue to forge ahead, to reach out to UNICEF and to the department and say we want to get involved? And how has that commitment been for your organization? Because we often hear sometimes from the private sector that organizations are concerned about getting involved in what we call gorilla problems, or these big, hairy, or audacious challenges that are difficult to unbundle. So what inspires that partnership and that integration?
I mean, Mandis, we take the view that we are part of community, and that our success as a company, are largely a function of the social programs that we implement, So, and that's the position we move from, and we also recognize that, there's a serious shortage of skills, which ultimately affect us as a company, in terms of doing what we're supposed to be doing, So for us, it was only natural, that we would support programs, that are closer to our competencies, the STEM program, because it talks to who we are as a company, as an innovative company, as an engineering company, So for us, it was not a difficult thing to be part of this program. And we've done a number of initiatives in the past. This UNICEF collaboration, it takes to this participation to another level, But we have been involved in the space, in schools around the Soshanguve area where our plant is based, where we were equipping primary schools and high schools, on matters of robotics and labs, We have also supported universities and technical schools, by giving them cars, because if you're an engineering student, you can't just imagine these things. You must get the feel of what's going on. So we have given about 18 universities and technical colleges in this country actual cars, so that after learning whatever they are learning in class, they can have that kind of practical experience. I can talk about my own experience. When I started doing engineering, mechanical engineering, of course, maths was a given in all other subjects. And then I got into my first class, people were talking about pistons and all sorts of things. I had no idea what they were talking about, you know. It took me a while, you know, to catch up to other kids who came from other areas, you know. So for us as BMW, we're trying to enable the youngsters earlier on in their lives so that when they get to the world of work or they progress into higher education, you know, at least they've got an idea of the kinds of possibilities that are out there for them, you know. So that's what's driving us to get into that space.
Yeah, that catching up part is key, because some people have a small catch up, some people have a really large catch up, and some people were never even part of the race to begin with. And I think that's what Mr. Tamani was alluding to and talking about, you know, quintile 1 to 5 schools and seeing what that sort of distribution looks like across the board. And I think it's one of the commitments that have been made to say we don't just want to go to the easy areas, we want to go to the far to reach areas. We want to ensure that we're including the most vulnerable communities that are more likely to be marginalized and left out of this work. So I think for this kind of work, it's particularly important to ensure that there's catch up happening, but ultimately that the goal is that no one is actually left behind. And so with that said, Hannah, I wonder how early should we be starting with the integration of these skills? Because a lot of the time we're seeing it happening in secondary schools, we're seeing it happening going into university or through programs that are sort of almost helping learners transition from a high school into a university season. But is that potentially too late? Is that why some of this heavy lifting is required on catching up? And if we were to think of going earlier, potentially even for some of you that are parents in the room, how early should we be starting to think about digital skills and digital skills transfer?
If you see a toddler these days, give them a screen, they'll automatically swipe the screen, right? They've been watching the adults. Now with this national coding robotics program, they are going to officially learn what they are operating on the screen that they're going to touch. That's starting from grade R now. So when is the adequate time? It's already from early childhood education age group. I'll share one of my personal stories. So I moved to South Africa 2 years ago. My daughter was 4 years old. I looked for coding robotics program in Pretoria, because in Japan, many children go already. Grade 1, it's a mandatory curriculum. And so a lot of the pre-primary service provider for coding robotics is booming. In Pretoria, it was only a handful, less than 5, that really looked like a good program. Only one of them was good for my daughter, just based on where I live. There are more options in Centurion and Joburg, but Pretoria, not much. Globally, if you look at coding robotics programming business, globally, it's a $3 billion market. That is huge. And with this national curriculum starting, I assume that in South Africa, this programming service provision for children is going to grow. And so it doesn't have to be just from this social corporate investment responsibility perspective, but it could be a business itself, because we are fully aware for business sectors, they need the business to run, right? And we are fully aware of it. And so I think collectively, we can really create that environment that nurtures young people. And especially just keeping in mind that when it comes to knowledge and skills, it's an incremental process. You learn the fundamental, and then you build the higher order. And this is the same for transferable and soft skills as well. You learn that from a baby time. That's why parents' involvement is also extremely difficult. They cannot learn different things at school and at home. So young age is what I would say. And just one last thing, we've been talking about teachers, and they are really at the center of everything. I read an article, a research paper in the past, that for adults, it takes 5 years to unlearn a concept. So those that didn't raise their hand on the AI use, in 5 years' time, you might raise your hand. So I mean, the government, the private, public sectors are really investing in teachers, but we always forget this time required for teachers to unlearn what they know so far, that they've been living for decades, and learn new things. And so we do need to pull up this patience and perseverance when we talk about transforming education and skilling.
And Mandisa, if I may just come in, at the very first workshop, when we met to decide to write this curriculum, we had to answer that question that you are asking, because then you need to determine at which grade do you want to start this subject. And the experts who were in the room gave us the answer that Hannah is saying. Start them as early as possible. That is why the curriculum starts from grade R, so that we start them early. They are already ready, these children. They are wired for technology. Their DNA is written technology over it. We are the ones who hold them back. So we decided that let us start early. And the coding and the robotics as an official subject, researchers tell us that we are the first country in the world to introduce it at grade. We're not the first country to introduce coding and robotics, but we are the first country to introduce it from grade R.
I think that deserves a round of applause.
Yeah. So it is there, but not as a subject in many countries. But for us as a country, we are the first, and other countries are saying we're waiting to learn from you. Brookings Institute in America congratulated us on this, and they say they're really waiting to draw lessons from our implementation. Whether we will succeed or we will fail, we don't know, but we are willing to try this. Thank you.
With partners like this on board, Mr. Tlhabane, I don't think that failure is going to be an
I
option.
agree.
We're going to be pushing and revving behind
BMW
you.
has never failed.
Great.
Maybe only in the debit orders, but we won't go there.
Yeah.
I'm going to take this opportunity to start letting those of you who have questions to let me know by indicating with your hands, by raising your hands, just so. Oh goodness, what a lively bunch. Okay, so I have a good sense now of where the questions are. I'm going to have to balance the side of the room from where I take them. So maybe before, okay. Are my microphones ready? Fantastic. Before we hear from the floor, can we just hear from people who are actually within the global definition of youth? No offense to all of those who are here. You are also young. Yeah, some of you are young at heart. Some of you are young at heart and in body. But because we are also a child and youth focused organization, I want to hear from some young people. So we have Leila Kumalo here, and we have Kainayochi Okeke. If we can get mics to them, please. Leila is a second year computer engineering student at the University of Pretoria. And maybe, Leila, you can just let us know what inspired you to study computer engineering, and what are the prospects that you see for yourself through this particular qualification. You can tell everyone in the room. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so as you heard from Mandisa, I am a second year student at the University of Pretoria. I'm studying computer engineering. And what inspired me was obviously my love for math and science, because as you heard, you do need math and science for engineering, but you do also need the soft skills. And I think for me, I've seen in many different fields and many different aspects that there's a lack of diversity in STEM, specifically engineering and IT, computer science, for instance. And so I think from seeing that, I wanted to be an advocate, and I wanted to inspire the next generation of female engineers. And looking ahead, I do want to start my own tech company, and I want to leverage my technical skills and creativity to develop innovative solutions. I also want to be recognized. I aspire to be recognized as a leader and an expert in the IT field. But yeah, for the most part, I do want to be an advocate, and I want to aspire and inspire the next generation of female engineers, because there is a lack of diversity, and I want to close that gap and get an equal number, hopefully. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Leila. And Kanayochi, I know where you're standing, but I can't see you over. Fantastic. I had an opportunity to chat to Kanayochi earlier in the week. He is a final year student at the University of the Northwest. Also pursuing his studies in information technology while interning at Netbank, specializing in UI and UIX design. And coding and all kinds of interesting things like Pythons and C# and other exciting things that happen there at Netbank. And I wanted to find out from you, given the fact that you get to participate in the banking industry so early in your career, what are the things that growing in STEM has really taught you about the possibilities that are out there for young people to pursue opportunities similar to yours, and how would you encourage them to think about STEM goals and STEM priorities both inside and outside of school?
So first of all, I'd start with saying that you can be everything you can be, right? It's not enough to just want it. In the world we live in, you have to have the opportunities presented to you and be prepared to take on them in the first place. But such is the world we live in when, like the panelists have told us, that there are people who don't have access to these opportunities and skills in the first place. And such initiatives like this are presenting it to the people who don't even have the ability to dream in the first place. How I got into STEM was I was watching Transformers when I was younger, and the Megan Fox one. And I asked my dad, I said, I want to be able to build my own transformer. And he told me, well, you can be anything you can be. It's not enough to just want it. You have to have the opportunities presented to you in the first place, and you have to have the skill set to attain these opportunities also. When you put a robot in a child's hand, like you've seen on the screen over there, you're giving them the ability to dream, an achievable dream, because there's people who don't have that access in the first place. What Netbank has done for me, they've seen that you have the potential and you have the skill set, and we're presenting you with this opportunity to become an innovator. The soft skills have been mentioned, the hard skills have been mentioned, and there's not enough emphasis that can be placed on these. When it comes to the soft skills, your design thinking, your critical thinking, it's a 21st century competency that's required for every single person to thrive in the new world of work. And in the future of work, you have to collaborate these skills with your hard skills, your soft skills to actually survive over there. So when the question asks about what kind of encouragement can I give to anybody in this room who wants to pursue something in STEM, whether you've already established yourself in your career, it's never really too late like we always hear. It's always to position yourself with the right skills or with the ability to pick up these skills and be teachable. So when the opportunities come, for example, like these, you can actually attain these opportunities and make the best out of all of them. So putting a robot in a child's hand is giving them an achievable dream and the ability to look up and say, I can be what I want to be, and I can be what I can be because the opportunity in the first place is presented to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kanayoshi. I'm going to stand here to take questions because I was struggling to see a little bit over there. I'm not used to being short, so this makes me a little bit more comfortable. Okay, great. So we're going to take a couple of hands. Panelists, I hope you have pens and paper because we are potentially only going to have an opportunity to take 1 or 2 rounds. So please do note them down. Before you speak, please introduce yourself. Let us know who you are, where you're from, and then jump into your question. Please limit your question to about 30 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds, so that we can get through as many questions as possible. Okay, we'll take the 2 gentlemen over there and the 2 ladies over there. And then we'll move to the side of the room. So, yes, gentleman with the mic, lady in the red dress, ma'am here, on the aisle, and then Sir, you in the front there. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Oton Likeng from Social Coding. My question is to Mr. Tlabane. Mr. Tlabane says that we are going to succeed or fail, we are not yet sure. So I want to know if we learned from instances where we failed. Because a few years ago, we introduced subjects in response to the third industrial revolution, computer application technology, information technology. But today, there's a big disparity among the schools on who can offer that subject. Mostly Quintile 4 and 5 schools are offering the subject, and your Quintile 1 schools are not able to offer the subject. So what have we learned from that, so that coding and robotics doesn't end up as a subject that is offered in urban schools and not in rural schools? Thank you.
That's a great question. What have we learned, Mr. Tlabane? What are some of the lessons you can share with us from the Department of Basic Education? Are we ready for our second question?
Yeah, okay, thank you so much. Just two quick questions. My name is Christo from
Just one, please, Christo. I wish I could give you two, but I haven't even come to the side of the room.
Okay, that's fine. Christo Morolong from Teardrop Media. My question is, but the tap dialing, so I'll just put them in there. Mr. Tlabane, you mentioned all the pillars, nice ones, you know, and I really appreciate them. But in terms of infrastructure, I mean, when we're still struggling where learners are, you know, dying in pit toilets and all those things, you know, in terms of all the curriculums that we have, but do we have the infrastructure that are able to sustain that, you know? And yeah, just a quick one to Mr. From BMW.
Christo, you're breaking all the rules.
All right.
So we're happy with the infrastructure question. Yeah. While we still have the challenge of infrastructure, how are we going to advance the agenda? Great. Ma'am, are you ready with the mic?
Morning. My name is Sadzani, and I'm from Zalo Careers. Having worked with over 226 schools in township and rural areas all over the country, I have learned that having an idea and actually implementing it are two different things, because township and rural is something else. So I wanted to ask that as we're looking into rolling out this, we have to equally look at the threats that we have looking at the country. There's issues of crime where the moment you put up a computer lab, tomorrow you go, the laptops are gone. And also the other challenges with teachers, where you go into a school and learners are forced to choose subjects that don't allow them to continue with STEM-related subjects. So we need to look at those and also look at maybe the unhealthy competition we have in terms of results, quantity over quality.
Great. Quantity over quality, and how we're combating, how we actually encourage learners to pursue their careers. Hannah, can you take that one? Yeah. Druti, there's a hand on this side in the aisle. How many microphones do we have?
Good morning. My name is Mbali. I work at Lilapa AI. So we build AI in African languages, and we've actually launched Africa's first large language model. So like Llama, GPT-4, etc. And I think my question is really linked to the point that was made earlier about this all needs to be able to exist in Homo and Lusigisigi. And if we are going to do that, we need to do that with multilinguality. Being brought in. We know the power of, home language. So my question, which I think, Hannah, you could probably take, is what are the ways in which multilinguality is being brought in, and how is technology being used to bring that multilinguality? Because if I'm going to be taught robotics, what does that mean as a child who's sitting in rural Eastern Cape, and how can we use the power of AI and multilinguality to actually accelerate the understanding and therefore the creativity that can come out?
Fantastic. By the powers vested in me, I'm going to take 4 more questions from this side of the room. I see a hand from a volunteer, so we'll definitely take that. Sir, you were one of the first people to have your hand up, so we'll take yours. There's a gentleman in the back with his hand raised and one right next to the volunteer. So let's take these 4 questions. I'm not seeing you. I'm just not able to respond to the fact that I'm seeing you. But maybe I'll be able to help you in the next round.
Good morning. My name is Olivia Shino, and I am a second-year law student at the University of Johannesburg. And I was fortunate enough to go to an international school. So I kind of grew up with, from grade 5, having technology. But I've noticed that even with my younger siblings, there's kind of this chronically online screenager epidemic. So
Screenager. That's amazing. I'm gonna write that down. Screen age. I think I have a screenager actually.
I too am a victim of kind of being chronically online. And there was a lot being said about hard skills versus soft skills, but I don't think there was a direct answer of how there will be a balance provided in schools. Because even with my siblings, I've noticed that they are online and the schools wonderfully use technology, but there's not a good balance between the two.
We're not finding the balance
There isn't
between
really
hard
one.
and soft skills. Okay, great. We've gotten your question. We'll make sure that we take it.
Hi everyone. So my name is Kagiso Khoman. I'm a founder of a non-profit organization called For the Youth by the Youth. So as an organization, we assist young people who are unemployed. So I hear that there's a program on drones. So I wanted to check how best can we collaborate to ensure that we take this program to rural areas and townships, because that's where we are based as an organization. And then we have a footprint of 58,000 young people across South Africa. So I think some of these skills and programs that are being offered here, we are willing as an organization to take them to our communities. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. I've noted that. Sir in the back, I think you were next.
Good day, hi. My name's Kumo Kumalo. I'm founder of Misunderstood, Morehouse College student, class of 2028, and matriculant from St. John's College. I have a question around accessibility. With statistics coming out that grade 4 learners can't read, or about 60% of grade 4 learners can't read for understanding, and a lack of foundational arithmetic, how do we expect students to engage with AI and computational thinking? And how do we expand the intake pool going forward so that these products become more sustainable for people within the youth?
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kumo. Your question is well noted. I imagine that the question is for Mr. Tlhabane, because I'm sure you take this question quite often in your work, sir. So I'm going to go ahead and transition that one to you. And then we had one more hand here.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mosa from Social Coding. We're also in the business of helping rural communities better their future. So my question, maybe it's for a gentleman there from DBE. So from the document that is published for the enrolling of coding and robotics, I see it's from grade R to 9, the one that is piloting. So my question there is, since well at the schools, the children or the learners start choosing their subject or streams from grade 10. So how is that impactful? Because to what I'm looking at is that that's when you start choosing that you want to go into STEM field or not, but it's being implemented from grade R to 9.
Okay, your question is around the grades in which we are implementing the curriculum. We only had one lady from this side, so we'll take one more just for gender parity. Ma'am, we'll take you here in the front and then we'll close.
Thank you so much. I'm pregnant with potential. My name is Dieketseng Malikele Nibe. I'm not asking a question, I'm here to offer solutions. And it's because I'm one of the beneficiaries of UNICEF. A one-day workshop that we held last year with Women in AI has brought me to bring solutions to you. BMW, what we would like to see is a mobile bus that will be able to travel to rural areas so that they don't have to steal computers where we place them. To UNICEF, can we not train the teachers? Can we be implementing partners for the Department of Education? The one-day workshops, 1 week, it's not proving to be fruitful because coding and robotics is like driving a car. So you would need to have an instructor that will drive with you up until you are able to drive on your own. To our Department of Education, the solution lies within your policy framework. It's not addressing the administration of coding and robotics in our country. What do I mean by that? Well, it's very simple. There is no specific criteria that we use in terms of coming to the schools and assisting. Everybody's delivering coding and robotics, but nobody talks about the ATPs. We're all doing coding and robotics to introduce. We cannot be doing that anymore. Like I said, I'm here to offer solutions, and I would like to partner with the UNICEF and the BMW through this initiative. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, ma'am. Basa, do you have a BMW bus? I've never seen one. I think we're going to need some innovation, some science and technology to think about how we can develop this bus. I'm definitely going to let you start us off with the question, particularly about the bus, but I also heard a question that was specifically speaking to work around helping young people identify career pathways and getting information around how to make subject choices. I know you do quite a lot of that work in your existing program. So perhaps we can start with you and then we'll move through to Hannah. And then I will ask that Mr. Tlhabane be protected. I know that some of you want to go back to school and take vengeance on the system, but please, can we please ensure that he's protected? They have important work to do in our communities. So let's go ahead in that order.
We certainly do not have buses. But I mean, my understanding of the question is issue of accessibility, you know, and it's a difficult question, you know, because it talks to resources and all other issues, you know. I mean, what I can say is that, you know, we are willing to explore opportunities where we can assist, you know, on how we can make, maybe in a limited way, you know, depending on our own capacity, how we can enable some of these things, you know. I mean, I hear what she's saying. And if you go to rural areas in the Eastern Cape and all those things, some of those areas you can't, you need to have mobile things to get to them, you know, and something that we need to think about.
Maybe an X5.
Yeah.
Or 6.
So I mean, listen, I've taken it as a homework. You know, I hear what he's saying.
Fantastic. Thank you. Hannah?
Yes. I might merge some of the questions in my response, but when it comes to, there was a question about quantity and quality and the social issues, the crime rate. I go back to these competencies, this transferable skills, soft skills, life skills, because what causes these issues? It comes down to that. What prevents people from attacking? The communication skills, the respect toward diversity, self-discipline, negotiation skills. I think these social issues change over time. Now we're all talking about climate change. In 10 years' time, there will probably be new things. What comes down so that we can really live in a society that is equitable and peaceful, I go back to these competencies. And that's why it's really crucial to really work on this, but more consciously, not unconsciously, like how it's been done so far. Multilingualistic issues. I just came back from Northern Cape last week. We have a reading program that's focusing on mother tongue. A lot to be done, but it's really not just, I really realized when going to the schools, especially in multi-grade schools, gosh, those multi-grade classrooms need a lot more support than monograde. What's really crucial is to really work with the community and the caretakers, because if caretakers mix different languages, that doesn't help in children's learning. So even if education system focuses on mother tongue, what's happening at home when they're out of school is also a big factor in children learning the mother tongue and then shifting toward English and other languages. And so it is a long-term investment, but it's something that we are really working together with the government in scaling these reading programs that really look into mother tongue. Can I just touch on the other issues?
Yeah, very briefly.
Very
before we
briefly.
move to Mr. Tlhabane.
When it comes to like accessibility and this also, again, quantity, quality, this is where I really want to focus on and emphasize this public-private partnership. DBE, we know these devices. I was talking to a company yesterday who's working with a DBE who's going to distribute 30,000 devices to 600 schools. Just the devices. That's great. That's one type of partnership. Then there's programs like Bridge that come with devices and the content. Even better. When you think about this, more than half of the teachers are retiring by the year 2030. How many students need devices that need to be renewed every 6-7 years? Imagine the cost and the financial burden on the DBE. How many learners do you support? 14.5 million. Imagine the number of the financial needs and the devices. And so this is where the public-private partnership, the government cannot do it alone. The private sector really needs to come in to really serve the children, because 90% of the children go to public schools in South Africa. They need to be almost like at the equal level in terms of accountability in supporting the education services out there. And when it comes to equity, the townships, including those with disabilities, I want to plug it in there. UNICEF also works in townships. Last year, we developed a business hub in Mamelodi township, because these the business opportunities are still inclined to urban areas. If we cater services specifically in those areas, there's more access on top the ripple effect of vulnerable young people going through the journey. With their success stories, they can really influence the younger generation in the township and vulnerable situations. So yeah, I'll just stop here for now.
Great. And then Mr. Tlhabane, I think you noted down all your questions, but if you do forget some, I shall be here to remind you. And the people will also be waiting outside after this. So just remember that as you respond. Please go ahead.
Okay, no, thank you very much, Mandisa. I hope that AI will assist me to vanish. It will help me to vanish so that nobody follows
in
me.
Bus's time
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah, very, very interesting questions and very relevant. The first question was, have we learned from implementing, say, subjects like CAD and IT, and have we drawn any lessons in preparing for the implementation of coding and robotics? Yeah, we learn all the time from implementing our project on what we could have done better. And when we implement new project, what are the mistakes that we must not make when we implement new curricula? And I think the point that you raised was around deepening the inequalities, where you indicated that subjects like CAD and IT are only offered by affluent schools, and that they could not find traction into disadvantaged schools. And what lesson have you learned out of that in implementing this curriculum? Now, in implementing coding and robotics, working with researchers and universities to ensure that this subject is not only confined to affluent spaces, but it reaches the hard to reach communities. We are implementing it using both plugged and unplugged, what is called unplugged coding, where you don't need devices or electricity or to be able to deliver this curricula, that where you've got a toolkit where children can learn to code without necessarily using electricity and computers. So that was a powerful lesson that we learned. However, there is another lesson that we have learned in taking this type of an approach. In addressing the problem that we spoke about, studying science without laboratories, researchers and scientists came up with what we called mobile science kits. Now, these mobile science kits, we budgeted for them, deployed them in schools, even industry came in and sponsored the deployment of these mobile science kits so that they can get into the deep rural areas. our hope at the time was that this was a temporary measure, because a child who's studying science using a mobile science kit and a child who comes from a college, you know, these high schools that are called colleges. Yeah, who comes from this college? They go to university, they're in the same class. This one had a real test tube, the real life size. This other one had this miniature type of things. And now they must get into the same class at university, study together. This was just a temporary measure. But 30 years down the line, a child in the deep rural area does not have a real test tube. And that we have failed as government, that we did not put targets of saying every year we want to build 100 real laboratories, and that we track our progress to say after 10 years we have deployed in 1,000 schools. And maybe our problem was linked to the question of pit toilets that was asked earlier on, to say when children are falling into pit toilets, you then are faced with hard to make decisions. Do you build a toilet or do you build a laboratory? Which one comes first? Do you build a pit toilet or do you deploy gadgets? These are not easy to answer questions, because life matters. But you don't want to have people who are alive but cannot even participate in the economy. You save lives, and that's what you have done. So it is a very delicate balancing act, and it is for that reason that we appreciate the role that business plays, because government cannot do it alone. The issue of theft and burglary that undermines efforts of government and business when it tries to provide quality education to our children is not something that is within the competency of basic education to deal with. We are not trained to deal with crime. And these criminals come from society. So the civil society need to rise up and protect these valuable assets. And perhaps our democracy is also our biggest enemy, because our government needs to adopt policies that say you steal from government. I mean, you steal these resources, you have declared war against government. There are countries where you will not do this. You are caught with government property, that is the end of you, because you cannot undermine government effort. Here people break in, and our subs do their best in other instances. They recover these gadgets. Now, they are unable to take these gadgets back to the school so that they can be used. Why? Because they must serve as evidence in court. And the court proceedings are going to take 6 years before the case is closed. And by the time the case is closed, the technology is absolute. You can't take it back to the classroom. Whether do we need special courts for people who steal from government? That is not the purview of basic education. Perhaps it's a bigger discussion for society, and you as members of society, you need to speak to these issues. The issue of teachers discouraging learners to take STEM subject. It is a real question to say, but how do we get children to do STEM when teachers are discouraging them? And perhaps it goes back to the competency levels of teachers. To say a teacher who's not competent or confident enough to teach a subject may discourage learners. And that there are parents who rise up and say, my child was discouraged to take the subject, I demand that my child offer mathematics or science. It does happen. So the point is not irrelevant. It is that the issue of multilinguality, and I'm really encouraged to hear that from the AI point of view, that you're focusing on African languages to ensure that Africans are not left behind in terms of digital technologies. Research says one of the reasons why Africans in particular are struggling with the science subjects, and not just the science subjects, but other subjects, is because children learn in mother tongue until grade 3, all subjects. They learn mathematics up to grade 3. But when they come to grade 4, then they transition into English, a language that is not spoken at home. So now they need to grapple with the language of instruction and at the same time grapple with the language of the subject, because mathematics and science, they have their own language. So this child is already at a disadvantage. And research says, and evidence says, children who study in their mother tongue are most likely to succeed in that subject. When we analyze our matric results, African-speaking children who write in Afrikaans do exceptionally well in those subjects because that is their mother tongue. Children who write these subjects in English and it is their mother tongue, they do very well. They get, their pass rates are amazing. They are 98% pass rate. But you come to Africans, the pass rate then is at around 44%. More than half of the children being unable to make it. So we have started what we call mother tongue based bilingual education. We are introducing and extending the years that children are going to learn in the mother tongue. We are extending from grade 3 right up to grade 6. And we are looking at implementing this from next year. We piloted this in the Eastern Cape. Children who learn mathematics in Xhosa did far better than children in the control group who continue to learn in English. You and I are a problem because we think it is smart for our children to speak English, even when they are 2 years old. When they speak English, when my visitors come, I say, come listen to my daughter. She's very smart. And we are not aware that we are destroying this child. When my grandchild comes, I just speak English with this child. When they have not yet developed cognitively, and that the mother tongue is very crucial for educational advancement of this child. So you will hear it in the media, you will hear it everywhere. We are working on this issue of all subjects being learned in mother tongue until grade 6. How do you create a balance between hard and soft skills, the acquisition of these two? Hannah indicated earlier on, we are embarking on, or we have embarked on what you call curriculum strengthening exercise. Our curriculum for all subjects, it has chapters. Chapter number 2 lists all these 21st century skills: critical thinking, collaboration, teamwork. It lists them, but when you come to the other chapters, like chapter 3, which is the one that is the content that spells out to the teacher what must be taught, these skills are not anywhere to be found there. When you come to chapter 4, which is assessment, the skills are not there. Now, we have embarked on an exercise where we say, we do not just list the skills in the curriculum, but we are going to infuse them into the content. we are going to infuse them into the assessment. Our teams are ready, as I'm talking right now, for all the subjects, not only the STEM subjects, to ensure that teachers on purpose, they teach these things, and that teachers are trained on how to teach them. And that is how we are going to balance the acquisition of these skills, that we don't just want a child who's excellent and is proficient in mathematics, but does not have these 21st century skills. How do you expect children to learn computational thinking when they cannot read with meaning, when our numeracy levels are still very low? For us, it's not either or. It is not this first, then followed by that. It is about coming up with a multidisciplinary approach in addressing these issues. Yes, language acquisition is important because you access the content through the language. If you cannot read, or you cannot read with meaning, then you will not understand the things that you are reading. So we have embarked on a very massive campaign to improve our reading with understanding. But one thing that is not said is that some of these international assessments, like PELS, that was assessing the reading proficiency of our learners, is not telling you one thing. One, South Africa is one of the few countries in the world that has multiple languages. Very few. We have 11 official languages. My apology to the deaf community. Yeah, 12. Yeah, my apology to the deaf community. We have 12 official languages. So these children were tested in these 11 official languages. They were in grade 4, but remember, in grade 4 they start learning in English, but they are tested on in their mother tongue. 2, the things that were tested, some of them were removed from the context of the child. That test, it had a question on an emperor. Now, tell me, a child in Hampahlele, in Limpopo, have they ever come across an emperor? Why don't you ask this child about Koshi? And then you then say the child did not understand what Koshi was. Now, if you say a child did not understand what an emperor was, how do you blame the child? There was a question on an octopus. Children got it wrong. They could not understand what an octopus is. And wow, this professor goes out and says children cannot read with understanding, when a child could not understand what an octopus is. So it's important that we must receive some of these reports with a critical eye. It's important. If at home we have never had a car, and then you place a car in my hands, you say, wow, he doesn't know how to drive. Is it a fair assessment? Those are the questions that we need to ask, and we must understand some of these things. That is why we say we receive these reports, because we don't want to sound very defensive. But it's important that experts, when they speak to the community, because the community doesn't have time to listen to arguments, the community receive the reports and they say this department has failed. So it's important that we understand that. The curriculum from grade R to grade 9, what are the plans of the department beyond that? It was on purpose that we made it up to grade 9, because from grade 10 to grade 12, we already have computer-aided technology, CAT, as a subject. We already have IT as a subject. So coding and robotics would then feed into these subjects once they go beyond grade 9. Mobile buses, we welcome the mobile buses, particularly if there will be BMW buses. We welcome them, but it links to the point that I raised earlier on, that a child will have to wait for a bus to come to their school when another child is accessing this thing on a daily basis. So it is not, it can happen, but it must be a temporary solution. The long-term solution must be, how do we place resources into our schools, and how do we get communities to protect the resources that are deployed? The department cannot be blamed for deploying, and the society comes and steals. And the reason why the community steal is because there is a market for these things. You and I are ready to buy that television, that flat screen, from this person who has stolen it. If we can come to a point where there is no market for these things, then when they steal them, they've got nowhere to deliver them. It's important that we need to deal, let's have national conversations on some of these things. I've tried to rush through the response. I know I took a lot of time. I'm a teacher by profession.
I thought you
Where
were also
I
a-
work, we use a siren or a bell to stop somebody who's busy talking to say your time is over with a bell. So since there was no bell, I thought my period is not over. Thank you very much.
I mean, what does one say to that? Doesn't he sound like a principal? You know, a very authoritative command of the room, but great responses. Thank you so much, Mr. Thabane and Hannah and Basa, for responding to some very difficult but very important questions. The power vested in me has expired to take any more questions. I see we still have some people raising hands, but this is only the beginning of a conversation that should be continuous for us as a country. As Mr. Thabane rightly said at the beginning, the purpose of the education system is to be responsive to the environment in which it's operating and the environment to which it needs to release those learners into. And so we hope that you will join us for lunch. I imagine that many of you are hungry because you are still here at 12:20. So please do take the time to join us for lunch. I think it's going to be upstairs, but we'll hear a little bit more on the logistics. Please, can you give another round of applause to our panelists? And we look forward to being able to answer some of the questions that we couldn't answer outside. So thank you very much, and back to you, Sudesh.
Thank you. Would like to sit back there, and we're going to just conclude. And as we, yes, another round of applause. Thank you. And as we conclude, we're going to show, again, it's just a 2-minute video, another bridge video that gives you a sense of, again, impact. And then I'll just do a little bit of housekeeping, and we'll go upstairs for lunch. Can we screen the video, please?
As a young lady, to be so passionate about robotics here in Mitchells Plain is not really common. I was introduced to the club robotics, and then I just decided I wanted to join because it looks cool.
I like technology a lot. Oh, it started from I was young. We got a new car, and it had a lot of cool new features. I loved it. I kept on playing with the buttons until I got scolded. So ever since then, I used to like technology. The impact of me having technology in Mitchells Plain, it's been really good so far.
It was like a new world for me. I don't know how to explain. It's opportunities to do a lot of things, like I said, problem-solving skills. It makes you think more. It's fun. I think it's very fun.
if you have a great teacher, you'd obviously, I don't know how to say this really in English, but like they give you pluck to work, like they motivate you.
The thing that excites me for the future is the way the technology is growing, and like I feel like it will expand around the world and like bring new life to people and now make their life easier.
Yes, I feel like this subject gave me a lot of life. It let me meet new people, friends, teachers that I've never knew I've met, and they're actually really nice. I feel like it's open doors.
Thank you. And that does bring us to the end of a very energizing morning that actually got more energizing as it grew on, which is not always the case with these sessions sometimes where people flag. But here, thanks to Mr. Tlhabane and the rest of the team, we got more energy and questions. I really would like to thank everybody for that, for those questions and issues raised. And if I can say, as Mandisa said, please continue the discussions. We're going to go up for lunch. Please chat, please mingle. And just, stay a bit if you can. Just to say thank you to our panel, first of all, for participating today, for your insights, to Mr. Tlhabane, to Hana Yoshimoto, my colleague, to our colleague from BMW, Mr. Kepe, to Mr. Boho Ramakhoshi for really, as I said, leading a lot of the planning around this, to our respondents, to the UNICEF Deputy Representative, Mr. Irfan Akhtar, to everybody that made today possible, the team from UNICEF as well, and the team from Mail and Guardian, particularly Matlodi, and those who ran everything so professionally and executed it so well. To our two respondents, Ms. Leila Kumalo and Mr. Kanyaochi Okeke as well, for giving us your insights and experiences. I think you really got us energized as well. So it was a critical thinking forum. There were many critical comments and thought patterns raised here. Let's continue this discussion. It's the real world. It's the world we're living. It's the fast evolving world. So let's continue to focus on it and prioritize it. Really a big thank you to BMW and DBE for partnering with UNICEF on this, and to the Mail and Guardian for amplifying it. You will see yourselves on social media, I believe. I also understand from Matlodi that there's a screen outside, and the photos that were taken are already on the screen outside. So if you want your moment of fame, you will find it there. I'm going to, as we all exit the room to the 13th floor, and I believe there's a bit of scaffolding as you go up, don't be alarmed, there's renovations, and then the lunch is set up. If I could ask the panel to please come back for a group photo, and everybody else can make their way up for lunch. Thank you again. Thank you for your participation, and happy August. Thanks.